Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Woodstock City Council, January 15th, 2026. This is our first meeting of the year. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas and meetings minutes page of the city's website. All councilors are in attendance. We do have Director Connors online, just so everybody is aware, but otherwise not expecting anyone else virtually. We did not have any closed session tonight. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Disclosures of new business? Seeing none. Matters arising from the minutes? And now the minutes. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Wismar Van Meer, that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Woodstock City Council held on December the 11th, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you. Any problems or questions on those? Seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. No additions to the agenda that I'm aware of. No presentations or delegations this evening. We do have some planning reports though. I'd like to welcome Mr. Gilbert, our city planner. This is for 9A, application of draft plan of condominium and exemption of draft plan approval, CD 24-04-08. Welcome.
Thank you. This first application is seeking support for exemption from draft plan of condominium approval. The lands are zoned for condominium development, or sorry, for a townhouse development consisting of 18 units. The units are constructed and nearing completion of the entire development. The proposal did receive a zone change from the city in 2021 and site plan approval in 2023. As such, planning staff consider the request to be exempted from this condominium approval process appropriate. The units will be individually owned with a small front and rear yard. The rest of the development will be the common element. Staff recommends support of the condominium application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? Councillor Schanberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to Mr. Gilbert, maybe just more a question of timing. What number of units of the 16 would have to be completed or occupied to be able to go forward with your declaration that you want to be a condominium? Or is that not a factor? Could they in fact have put in a request for condominium status even before they started building? Just curious how that works.
Through the mayor, to answer this question, we see the applications at different timelines, but essentially most common, it's once they have site plan approval, that's when they start the condominium exemption process, because they can't do it prior to that because all of the requirements haven't been covered off. But as soon as the site plan is approved and securities are received, they can start this process. Depending on the timing and phasing, sometimes they do in a phased approach, so they'll do one building at a time. Or sometimes if it's only 18 units, it may happen all at once. It's really up to the developer.
Just curious because they would have to establish some sort of reserve fund. And if they've already been occupied for 3 or 4 years versus not even a hole in the ground yet, what the differences would be in each case, each scenario. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions of the planner? Looking for a motion then? Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council advise Oxford County Council that the city supports the application for draft approval of the proposed condominium submitted by Piddock Developments, Inc., file number CD 24-04-8, prepared by MTE Ontario Land Surveyors Limited, for lands described as part of Lot 5, Concession 13, East Zora, Part 141R 10719 in the city of Woodstock. And further, City Council advise Oxford County Council that the city supports the application for exemption from the draft plan of condominium approval process submitted by PIDOC Developments, Inc., file number CD 24-04-8, prepared by MTE Ontario Land Surveyors Limited for lands described as Part Lot 5, Concession 13, East Zora Park, 141R 10719 in the city of Woodstock, as all matters relating to the development have been addressed through the site plan approval process and a registered site plan agreement with the city of Woodstock. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Counselor Tate, discussions or questions of other staff? Seeing none, call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Next up, 9B, application for zone change ZN 8-24-23 for 1634 Devonshire Ave. Mr. Miller, or Gilbert, sorry. Wrong one.
This is a zone change application seeking to permit a commercial development. The properties at the corner of Devonshire and Oxford Road 4. The zone change would rezone the property from future development to a C4 and a C4 special. The C4 special provision relates to the setback of this parking area and drive aisle to the corner of the road allowance. In this case, there's already a daylighting triangle taken in that intersection. So the actual relief is to that property line for the one parking space and the drive aisle. Circulated staff didn't have any concerns with that reduced setback, as there'd be no impact to the actual intersection or sight lines. The development consists of eating establishments, a gas bar, and a retail food store. Just to clarify from the public meeting, there is no cap on the food store size. It's limited to the lot coverage and the parking provisions. So it'd be 40% of the lot area would be to the max that could be constructed on that site. Overall, staff are supportive of the application. This zoning will implement the existing official plan designation of service commercial for these lands, and staff recommend approval of the application.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? Seeing none? Looking for a motion on the floor. Counselor Schanberg.
Make a motion that Woodstock City Council approve the application for zone change submitted by 2167284 Ontario Inc., Kuldeep Brar and Jagit Randana for lands described as Part Lot 13, Concession 1, as in 425330 Blandford in the city of Woodstock to rezone the subject lands from future development zone FD to highway commercial zone C4 and special highway commercial zone C4-59 to facilitate the construction of a gas station, eating establishments, and retail food store. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Counselor Martin. Any further discussions or questions? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. With 9C, I'm going to change things up a little bit. This is for application for official plan amendment and zone change for 760 Juliana Drive. I'll be looking for a motion first, as we do have a deferral possible and save the planner a little bit of time. With that, Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council advise County Council that the city recommend that the application to amend the official plan, file number OP 25-12-8, submitted by the Corporation of the City of Woodstock for lands legally described as part lots 21-23 and 27 Plan 1600, City of Woodstock be deferred to provide an opportunity to include a childcare center on the subject lands. And further, that the City Council defer the zone change application, file number ZN 8-25-10, submitted by the Corporation of the City of Woodstock for lands legally described as part lots 21-23 and 27, Plan 1600 in the City of Woodstock, and direct staff to amend the zoning bylaw application to include a childcare center as a permitted use on the subject lands.
Thank you. Is there a seconder to that motion? Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion? Counselor Leatherborough?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I believe it's pretty self-explanatory, but after the planning meeting on Monday night, I did look back at the childcare policy that council adopted last year as it relates to city-owned lands and municipal buildings. So I wanted to defer this application to incorporate that. I did provide all of council a bit of background around that I, as I said, flagged after Monday's planning meeting. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments or discussion? Counselor Lauder?
I will not be supporting the deferral in order to add a daycare to be included in the RFP. This is certainly an added cost to the developer. The developer would require added expense to provide the requirements of a daycare. If this was to be a public daycare, there would be extra parking required. It would be up to the developer to get someone to operate it. If it was public and children living in apartments would not be able to use the daycare facilities unless they were being cared for on the premises. This is not a mandate of the city to provide daycare facilities. That is a county mandate, so I won't be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Tate?
Through the chair, I also won't be supporting it. I think that's a huge burden to put on the private sector. I understand if it was the city, but it's a private sector. And as we all know, the economy is in really rough shape. And I don't think we should handcuff anybody or defer it. We need to move on.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Leatherborough?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll also just say that the policy is, as I said, a direction from council direction, and deferring it. I believe this application would come back next month, if not in March, so there's no additional cost. Furthermore, it still is under that umbrella of the word consider, so nobody is handcuffed. I'll use the language that's already been said around this horseshoe, and childcare is really important as we build out healthy neighborhoods that I continuously say over and over again. So of course, you don't have to support this, but don't want to give the community mixed messaging, and I'll ask for a recorded vote too, please.
Counselor Tate?
Yeah, just to follow up because my quote was used. We have to be very careful that we're not getting into jurisdictions of other levels of government. As we all know, things are tough, really tough. Taxes are really high. The economy is turning, as we all know. So this isn't an issue that none of us think it shouldn't be addressed, but needs to be addressed, not in the private sector. So when the policy did come forward, there was a number of us that were concerned that that wording was in, because I don't know any other municipalities that would have it for the private sector. So I'm going to stand by my comments, and we need to be very careful around this horseshoe of what we're doing.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Schanberg?
Yes, I'll be voting against this as well. With the city being the vendor of this property, when it does go on the market or when RFPs are asked for, there's highest and best use becomes a very important factor because of the fact that the report says we could have as many as 340 units, likely not more than 340 units, but up to 340 units in 3 different buildings. You start factoring in a daycare center with its accompanying exterior, as Councillor Lauder alluded to, with its exterior playground equipment. All of a sudden, you're creating a scenario where you likely cannot get the 340 units anymore, and that's what a developer developer would want. How much could he optimize the number of units he could possibly get over 3 buildings, whether it be a large parking garage or underground parking or whatever the scenario happens to be in that direction. But daycare would not be a component I'd be interested in any sort of an RFP.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Martin?
Yeah, I'll just say, I think it was an excellent catch by Councillor Leatherborough that noticed that this application hadn't gone through the process of aligning with our existing policy. There's lots of things that happen within municipal government that all 7 of us don't love, and yet it is an existing policy, and it is our job to adhere to those policies. Is there a lot of echo? Sorry. How the developer chooses to respond to this is in their court, and isn't being dictated by us through this motion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I'd like to add that I will be voting in favor of this deferral. I do like it. I thank Councillor Leatherborough for making that catch. It is our council policy now to look at it. Not often will we have this opportunity. It is up to those submitting an RFP if that could work or not. Council's going to be able to decide what is the best they feel at the time it gets presented, if it's more homes or what. So, and for those reasons, I am going to be voting in favor of the deferral. I think we have to work together with our county folk across the street and help any way we can to move things forward. And with that, I will turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we start with the mover, Councillor Leatherborough.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Schadenberg.
No.
Councillor Tate.
No.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Yes.
Mayor Accioni.
Yes.
And Councillor Lauder.
No.
That motion carries 4-3.
Thank you. And Mr. Gilbert will hold off for the presentation until it comes back. Thank you. And sorry, I guess you're not done. The summary, my apologies. Yes, 9D, summary of 2025 community planning services and proposed 2026 planning initiatives.
Sure. So this report is intended to provide a summary of the service delivered in 2025 and what we're going to propose to do in 2026. So in addition to myself and Justin that you see from time to time, there's a broader team behind us that also delivers the planning service for the city of Woodstock, including director of planning, full-time development planner, and a planning student who also assists with the administration of Woodstock site plans. In addition to those people, there's also, we have a policy team, a manager of planning policy, GIS analysts, as well as 4 admin team members as well that assist to provide the full range of planning service to the city. Last year in 2025, there's a number of challenges in delivering the service. One was this significant amount of staff time, primarily my staff time, tied up in OLT hearings, both for the city and throughout the county. OLT hearings, typically we don't have many, but last year we've had 6, and they are more complex than the former OMB hearings. There's many more pre-hearings and mediation matters to attend to, so that did eat up some of our time. As well, the appeals relating to 401 Lakeview Drive in the city. We note that even though there is a proposed settlement in October, we still have not received a decision from the OLT for that application. As well, we did have staff vacancies and a number of seemingly unending provincial legislative policy and regulatory changes. For the development planning service, last year we processed 98 development applications within the city. We also provided or attended 19 pre-consultation meetings for various development proposals in the city. We also compile and submit on a quarterly basis to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing the detailed planning application data that's required by OREG 7323 relating to the strong mayor powers. We also assisted in the development and review of a servicing allocation policy and capacity protocol developed by Oxford County Public Works. We also participated in a webinar to present that policy to the development community in Woodstock and throughout the county. We also coordinated 6 peer reviews for development applications. Through the changes to the Conservation Authorities Act, we are now in charge of administering those peer reviews. That was something that conservation authorities did before, but now they're not allowed to do that. So we've had to obtain the services of a separate peer reviewer and administer that process. Last year was also very challenging due to the postal strike. Significant staff time was spent mainly entering addresses in Pure Later and other courier companies, as well as arranging with the city clerk's department for hand delivery of notices when it was feasible and when they were in a smaller geographic area. That was challenging to get the notices out on time and, mailing them, and then it's on strike, so the notice isn't deemed received, so we had to go out and do hand-delivered notices and newspaper ads. Hopefully, we won't encounter that this year. As well, most of the development in the city's settlement boundary has draft approvals, and so there isn't a lot of easy greenfield development. A lot of the sites that we're seeing now are infill projects, infill developments on within existing neighborhoods, which is more difficult, or they're on sites that remain vacant for a long time, either usually due to environmental issues or constraints that are present. So it does take longer to develop or to process most of those applications. Table 1 of the report has a summary of the application types over the last 5 years. Some of the applications have come down, minor variances in particular. We have done amendments to the zoning bylaw to reduce the number of applications that are required. So example, for accessory buildings, 2-story accessory buildings, those are permitted as of right generally now. So that's why some of those numbers are coming down, as well as increased permissions for ARUs. So some of those are down. Last year, we had 98 development applications, which was lower than 2024, 115, but similar to 2023, which had 99. It was slower for most of the year. However, in the fourth quarter, development activity did seem to pick up quite a bit. Based on the planning applications and approvals given by City Council, County Council, and the Land Division Committee, last year, 239 new residential lots were approved in the city of Woodstock, as well 4 draft plans of subdivision had portions of those plans registered. From the building permit data issued last year, there's 437 new residential units created through building permits. You should note that that doesn't directly translate to housing starts under the housing pledge, as the province uses a different metric to measure those. However, those were units that all approvals were issued for. Based on the land supply data that CPO staff have developed, it's estimated that there's 4,267 approved but unbuilt residential lots or units at the end of 2025. Based on the 3 and 5 year building permit average, that works out to anywhere from 12 to 12 and a half years of supply. So that's the estimated land supply remaining in the city of Woodstock at this time. The report has details on other matters that development planning staff were also involved with, including development charge calculation changes. That is way more complex than it used to be. We work with the city building department a lot to determine the triggers for when they're payable and the amounts. That takes a lot more time than it used to. So in addition to the development team, our policy team was also involved with a number of projects last year, primarily responding to legislative change through Bill 17, Bill 60, and Bill 68. The province also released an updated methodology guideline for population projections to assist with the implementation of the provincial planning statement. Further updates the Conservation Authorities Act. They also developed guidance for renewable energy and battery energy storage systems. The IESO process, you'll see next year, they're kicking off another procurement round for electrical generation in Ontario. Their process is somewhat separated and distinct from the planning process. So we came up with a suggested process and guidelines to better integrate them for decision making. They also did the consultation and proposed updates to the official plan in Chapter 10 for implementation policies to introduce further streamlining and delegation of approval authority where appropriate, as well as alternative measures of public notice so that if there's a mail strike, we have some other options rather than couriering. They're also working towards completion of the growth forecast and land use assessment. This was delayed many times by updated provincial changes in legislation. However, we're on track to bring that forward to County Council shortly. The final one I'll highlight is the province introduced through a regulation an updated minor variance guideline. So if you're on a serviced lot in the city or in a settlement area, if you're set back to a lot line from your buildings is 90% of what the zoning bylaw requires, it's deemed to automatically be granted. So this it took about 2 weeks to figure out the intent of the wording, the actual legislation. And when we looked at it, it referenced a different section of the act. So it actually meant that if you're within 300 meters of a railway or you're 120 meters of a water course or a wetland, that doesn't apply to you. So we had to develop a GIS layer to map these areas where this uh, automatic relief would not be granted. So that was something that took about 3 weeks of staff time to develop and get into place as the regulation was effective immediately with no transition guidance or provisions. As well, there's a lot of other changes that are enabled by the legislation that haven't been implemented through regulation yet. So our policy staff continuously monitor the environmental registry to look for regulations that are coming or have dropped or updated guidance that's being released. For 2026, staff are working towards satisfying county council direction or city council direction on a couple of matters, including the city's strategic plan for the creation and intensification of units in the downtown. We understand that this result was initiated with the development application at Wellington South and Main Street, and it was incorporated in the strategic plan that the city had. We delivered a training session in May 2024. We're also reviewing the urban structure of the city through the development of a new official plan that we're kicking off this year to provide additional guidance to priority areas where density should be accommodated. We also are monitoring and reviewing a broad range and continuous wave of provincial legislative change. A lot of these changes have the potential to have a big impact on where density could be considered appropriate. We are also undertook a high-level intensification potential and an opportunity review, both in the city and throughout other service settlements in the county as part of the phase 1 comprehensive review. And then later this year, we intend to initiate, as part of the broader background study work, as part of a new OP, a study to provide guidance of strategic growth areas, nodes, and corridors. This is new language in the PPS 2024 that gives more tools to the county and city to identify areas where growth and intensification is encouraged. Um, so that will be initiated later this year. The existing, one of the feedback we got from the consultant who's doing the growth projections and the overall comprehensive review, that the existing OP framework and land use designations, they generally they broadly permit increased density. However, they don't identify strategic areas or targets for that. So this work will be important to direct the growth into these identified areas, as there's only so much growth to go around, and it's better to locate it in the areas that city council and county council identified as priority areas. With respect to the housing pledge action items, we've made progress on a number of them through, again, review of our official plan and the densities, housekeeping updates to the zoning bylaw for ARUs, the training session delivered again. We're looking to initiate a housekeeping update in Q1 2026, which would look at building heights in the downtown within the identified pedestrian promenade area, review of parking provisions for the different dwelling types. Again, where there's a number of applications that are approved with the relief, we want to, if it's going to be granted anyway, we want to change the bylaw to incorporate that so that future applications don't have to be made for that same provision. As well as a review of multiple unit dwelling types. We've seen some new dwelling types that we previously were not really prevalent in the city, such as back-to-back townhouses that really don't have much amenity areas. So the zoning bylaw doesn't really speak to those. So we're looking to do some provisions for those as well. And a review of the Schedule D and E of the zoning bylaw for parking exempt areas in the downtown. Also, this year, we intend to start discussions with the city about the renewal of the planning services agreement. And through that, through those discussions, look at broader opportunities for delegation, potentially of planning approvals, such as minor zone changes that may result from either a severance or a condition of a subdivision, exemptions from condominium approval, whether you really need to see that application that we saw earlier tonight for the condo exemption, and evaluating whether consent applications, whether you still want to see severance applications come before city council before they proceed to land division committee. And then the other item in the housing pledge was streamlining and simplifying. For this work, amendments to Chapter 10 of the official plan are coming forward later in Q1 of this year to, again, to provide the further delegation authority. We've also expanded on pre-consultation. So although it's not required anymore by the province, we have a standing weekly meeting where we can schedule people to come in for pre-consultation. The feedback we received has been great because we don't charge for it and it doesn't take us 3 months to get scheduled in for a meeting. So we're looking to build upon that. As well at the county, county council has further delegated planning approvals for red line changes to plans of subdivision, as well as the condominium exemptions. Previously, that would require a report to county council. Now, as long as the area municipality is okay with it, that approval can be delegated to the director of planning. So by end of Q2 of this year, we intend to present a report outlining some quick wins or quick amendments to the official plan that could be considered to provide some greater residential densification, as well exploring the potential benefits and challenges of a community permit planning system, potentially for the downtown, and as well initiating the urban structure study to determine the high level structure for a settlement area such as the city of Woodstock, and identifying those strategic areas for growth and nodes and corridors. With that, I think I will leave it for any questions the council has. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? Seeing none. It was very detailed. I thank you very much for that. I spoke to Director Michaels and thanked him as well with getting all staff together. The biggest piece that I found interesting was the 4,267 unbuilt properties, but approved yet here in the city of Woodstock within our boundaries. So I found that incredible. With that, I'm looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Tate.
I will move that the report CP 2026-14 Summary of Planning Service Delivery 2025 be received as information.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Any further discussion or questions? To any staff? Councillor Martin?
Yeah, not a question, but a comment. As you said, incredibly thorough and detailed presentation that really highlights that the services that are provided by the planning department go well beyond coming, every other week to present planning applications for us to consider, that there is a wealth of work that goes on behind the scenes to deliver this service. And what struck me as you were speaking is that if we were to deliver this service in-house ourselves, there would be an incredible amount of cost and staffing involved if we decided to do this outside of the service agreement that we enjoy with the county. So I believe you indicated that that's under review in the coming year. I'm optimistic and hopeful that we can continue on with this relationship because it really is a mutually beneficial and cost-saving endeavor for the city of Woodstock.
Thank you. Along those lines, I do have a question actually for Mr. Gilbert. I'm curious, of the 8 municipalities then that you service, of course, what percentage, any guess after putting a report like this together that county staff would put on this on behalf of the city of Woodstock? Because again, I agree, it's very, very thorough, but I'm always curious.
Are you looking for like the staff, percentage of staff time
Yeah,
dedicated
would
to the city?
50% of staff time be on what you just listed last year, would you estimate on behalf of Woodstock City residents?
It'd be close to 50%, yeah.
Not surprised by that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? With that, call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Next up is consideration of correspondence, and Councillor Schanberg does have one this evening. Councillor Schanberg.
And it's a really short one. Moved by Councillor Schattenberg, whereas the city of Woodstock acknowledges that municipal infrastructure, roads, bridges, water and wastewater systems underpins public safety, economic vitality and quality of life in Ontario's rural and small urban communities. And whereas the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, OCIF, was created in 2015 to assist small and rural municipalities facing infrastructure deficits that exceed their local revenue capacities. And whereas in 2022, the Government of Ontario committed to increase the annual OCIF envelope from 100 million to 400 million, but over a 5-year term, with that commitment scheduled to expire at the end of the fiscal year of 2026. And whereas fixed funding levels amid rising labor, materials, and climate resilience costs have eroded the purchasing power of the $400 million envelope, jeopardizing municipalities' ability to deliver and sustain essential services without incurring unsustainable debt. And whereas predictable multi-year funding indexed to real-world cost drivers is critical for municipalities to develop, finance, and execute long-term asset management plans, reduce emergency repairs, and leverage complementary federal and private infrastructure financing. And whereas the city of Woodstock requires a steadfast provincial partner to extend and enhance OCIF beyond 2026, ensuring infrastructure resilience, fiscal sustainability, and equitable access for all small and rural municipalities. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Woodstock calls upon the Government of Ontario to extend the annual OCIF envelope at not less than $400 million beyond its current 5-year term, ending in 2026, with no reductions in subsequent provincial budgets. Does continue on next page. And further, that the province be requested to index the total annual OCIF envelope and each individual municipal allocation to the Ontario Consumer Price Index, calculated on a calendar year basis and dispersed in the first quarter of each fiscal year. And further, that the Ministry of Infrastructure establish a new 5-year OCIF funding framework that guarantees annual envelopes and allocation percentages by municipality, enabling long-term capital planning and stable cash flow management. And further, the province undertake a formal review of the OCIF allocation formula at least once every 4 years, incorporating current municipal asset management data, demographic projections, climate resilience metrics, and rural equity considerations. And further, that a dedicated contingency reserve equal to 5% of the annual OCIF envelope be created within the fund to address extraordinary cost escalations, emergency repairs, or project overruns without reallocating core funding. And further, that the Ministry of Infrastructure publish an annual OCIF performance report, including a program disbursements, allocation adjustments, and reserve expenditures in a transparent, publicly accessible online dashboard. And further, that the copy of this resolution be sent to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Kingma Surma, the Minister of Infrastructure, the Honorable Rob Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honorable Francois Philippe Champon, the Minister of Finance, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Ontario Small Urban Municipalities, OSUM, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM.
We're gonna do that one again? We're looking for a seconder on that.
Yes,
Counselor
and the
Tate,
seconder will have to repeat the
Yeah.
entire resolution.
Counselor Tate, second that. Counselor Schadenberg, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I just want to give people the idea that this is background comes from a resolution that was approved on December the 2nd in Smith Falls. So it was circulated amongst all councilors here in our horseshoe, but I decided to move it forward to see if it was something that we should agree to as well. So it was circulated back on December the 5th, as I say, approved in Smith Falls back in early December. The Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, as was mentioned in the motion, would begin in 2015. And with the commitment ending at the end of the fiscal year of 2026, and I know governments change and I know everything changes, but I think the most important part of all of this is to make sure it's attached to whatever the index is for that year, and to make the request to Queen's Park to increase the amount at the Ontario Consumer Price Index amount at a minimum in future years as well.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on that? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Next up, we have presentations from staff and approved agents, and I'd love to welcome Warden Ryan, as well as Sarah Hamelecki, Manager of Strategic Initiatives and Intergovernmental Relations for Oxford County. Welcome. And this is for an update on Safe and Well Oxford, and the Safety and Wellbeing Plan.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. We are very pleased to be here tonight. Not only are we providing a bit of an update, but we're also presenting the final draft version of the updated Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan for Safe and Well Oxford. As mentioned, my name, I won't repeat that title because it takes far too long to say, and we don't want to keep everybody here all evening, but we are obviously going to highlight some information, key information for you from the report, also as far as findings and sort of experiences through the process of updating the plan. And then we will be available for questions if you have any as well. So I'm really hopeful that by now everyone has at least a rather high level understanding of community safety wellbeing plans. They are legislated through the Community Safety and Policing Act. Here locally, we went with a very efficient method of having one plan on behalf of all 8 area municipalities. That was approved in 2021. And Oxford County is leading it on behalf of all 8 of the area municipalities. So if I had been here approximately a year ago, and I probably would have fairly confidently stood here and told you that I felt quite knowledgeable about community safety wellbeing plans. I would have been a little bit amiss in the sense that I have since learned a great deal about community safety wellbeing plans, and particularly through this process. One of the most important things that we would like to highlight today, and I suspect the warden may touch on it as well, is the purpose of community safety wellbeing plans. And they do have a bit of a unique existence in that yes, they are legislated, but the plans themselves don't actually hold much power within them. A lot of the power of community safety wellbeing plans is actually in the service providers and our community partners and stakeholders who are doing the work that is directly connected to the community safety wellbeing plans. And that was really eye-opening for us in terms of sort of reiterating and refocusing us on that fact. So I think with that added knowledge and a deeper understanding of that purpose, it has really helped us to be able to envision and see how we are actually going to be able to implement this plan going forward.
So hopefully most of you will remember that the process of coming with our new plan started in early 2025. We're required legislatively to refresh the plan every so many years. We frankly kind of met that requirement by adding the gender-based violence component a while ago, but we decided that it was worth having a full new plan. So we undertook that effort in early 2025. Hired Strategy Corps to lead that work for us and do the broad consultation work. So I think each one of you was involved in that, had an opportunity to be involved in that. Certainly your staff were, each area municipality was. And perhaps most importantly then, all the community agencies and community groups that participate in community safety wellbeing plans or have the opportunity to participate if they want to, as they're able to. And residents had an opportunity to contribute and tell us what they thought about it. As a result of all of that data collection, revision, review of the plan that we have and that we've been working with, the Strategy Corps' work looking at plans around the rest of the province that they had familiarity with, they come up with the draft plan, submitted that to Manager Hamilecki, who said, kinda, sorta, but not quite good enough. Did a bunch of revision work to that, and that's what you all saw at the summit if you were there, or what was circulated around that time anyway, was a draft, an earlier draft. More feedback at that time that Strategy Corps attempted to incorporate where applicable, where appropriate into the plan. And then that is the plan that you have in front of you today. So the final draft you have in front of you today. So our intention here is that this final draft should be a really good reflection of everybody who you would hope would participate to some level in the plan and would meet the broad goals that we've identified as a collective group of municipalities in Oxford County, and give them good direction as to where we would like to go, and hopefully that's the plan that you see here today. I should also, before I move on, thank your deputies, your clerk and deputy CAO Humphreys for her work over the last 2 years, I think, as co-lead. 1 year? 1 year. As the co-lead of Safe and Well Oxford, it's been extremely valuable to the steering committee in particular in that work.
So taking a bit of a look at the actual plan itself, starting with some noticeable changes, I think one of the key ones is obviously within the priority areas. So you may recall that the very first version of the plan had 4 priority areas. Partway through in 2023, so it had been within this term of council, we did add gender-based violence as a 5th priority area. This new version has affordability and economic stability, which is something that has come up, I think, just kind of through the existence of the other plan connecting with the community, and was very prevalent through the feedback. So things like food security, poverty, just affordability in general. I will note that that obviously is a huge priority area. To be honest, I don't know exactly how we're going to go about tackling it, but again, that's not necessarily the purpose of the plan itself. The plan is to make the connections, find the partnerships, find the relationships. There's a lot of good work that's already happening in our community, and I think it will just be a matter of kind of finding out exactly what's happening, where can we help, what support can we provide, and then proceeding with that. Another noticeable change within the priority areas is the one called People and Belonging now. This was formerly DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. But this has also evolved though, and I think is an even better reflection of the true needs within our community. I think at the end of the day, what we really want is for people, for our residents to all feel like they belong within Oxford County. And I believe that the changes made within this priority area are going to hopefully do that and see some changes in that area. Some other noticeable changes I'll go through and just provide a little bit more context. A new FTE coordinator position was approved in the 2026 County Council budget. This was a recommendation from the consultants, is to have a dedicated full-time person that is doing the work to help with coordination. This role in particular will be providing some administrative support to the situation table, to the Oxford Femicide Prevention table. Those two groups will be, although they existed before, they are doing a lot of work that is directly related to our community safety wellbeing plan. And so they will be more closely connected to that work, which I think is a really great thing as well. The FTE will also provide some support to the action coalitions. And also you'll notice the last bullet, they will be supporting the existence of work plans within the action coalition. So it was pretty loud and clear, in particular at the summit, where we actually could hear people talking about some of the feedback and the needs and service providers. And people don't have, they're tapped out. They don't have any more resources. They don't have any more time. And I do realize that this is only one FTE. So it's probably only a drop in the bucket as far as what our service providers need. But it is a start, and I do think that they will be able to play a key role in hopefully being able to help fill in some of those gaps for everyone. So the steering committee is the current name. It will be changed to called the advisory committee. There will also be some additional sort of like governance changes, or I guess structure changes within that, in the sense that we will be adding one representative from each of the area municipalities. I think that will be valuable for for the county, for all of our area municipalities, to have that ongoing connection, to be more directly involved and hear about the work that's happening on a more frequent basis. Another thing that I would personally like to highlight is what we've called foundational values. You will see them in the graphic that that the warden will be talking about next. But I would like to explain them a little bit and sort of why they're there and why we added them, because it is, I think, an important addition that I hope helps to make Oxford County's plan a little bit more unique and more geared for us locally. So youth is obviously an important part within our communities. They play obviously a key role, and they are ultimately our future. And with community safety wellbeing plans being preventative and proactive in nature, I think investing and focusing on solutions and things for our youth will only help us in the long run. So certainly existed as part of the current version that we have, but we have chosen to kind of almost highlight it more as a foundational value. And these values, we do hope ultimately become almost like ingrained as part of what we do with community safety wellbeing plans. We want them to become part of sort of like everything that we do, and lenses that we look at when working through implementing the plan and the initiatives related to it. Local voice is another one, to kind of explain that. Often you hear the term sort of like people with lived experiences, and that is important to obviously have that voice as part of the plan, but we believe that there's more than that as well too. Oxford County is unique in the sense that we have one of the things I personally love as a resident and as an employee here is the combination of our urban and rural communities. And so one of the things that we really want to do to help make this plan be representative of our entire county is to make sure that we are on a more regular basis connecting with residents, hearing their needs, their challenges, and things like that. So sort of along those same lines is the urban and rural lens. So what we hope with that is just to ensure that when service providers are, working through initiatives and, like I said, problem solving, coming up with solutions and things like that, that we are always looking at it with the lens of both urban needs and rural needs, because that is a huge part of what makes Oxford County, Oxford County. And then lastly, data and metrics is another foundational value that we have added. I can admit that it wasn't necessarily one of the strongest aspects of what we did through the last community safety wellbeing plan. Data and metrics is a really difficult thing, especially when it comes to some of these topics. It's really, really hard to pick a few measures that concretely show progress being made. And so it's really tricky to do that. Not to mention there is a ton of data that's out there. So compiling, collecting it, and sometimes there are changes and numbers that go up, but that might be a good thing, but it might not be a good thing. And so it's a very complex topic when you're looking at community safety wellbeing plans. But by adding it as a foundational value, we do understand the importance of making data-informed decisions and using that information to be able to shape what we do and how we do it. So we hope that by adding it as a foundational value, we will be able to dedicate a little bit more attention to it and hopefully do a better job so that we can at least be starting to pull together things that are a reflection of the work and the progress being made within our communities.
So this slide is the governance model. I'd sort of emphasize it's more of sort of a small G governance model than a big G governance model, because unlike most of the policies that municipalities adopt, where council, in this case councils, set at a service level, a policy level, and then allocate resources to staff to then go out and deliver to a certain measurable, this plan doesn't really do that, because as Sarah was pointing out earlier, one of the main things we learned through the development of this plan is that we're not actually sort of capital G governing the people who are going to actually do this work, right? We're asking them to collaborate with us. So we're telling them across the bottom there, these are the priority areas that we have identified. And if your council agrees with this tonight, and if all the others do, that we will have a new plan that says these are the priority areas. And that then this Safe and Well Oxford coordinator would work with the advisory committee and work with the action coalitions to say, what is your measurable as groups, as agencies that are willing to participate in this? You tell us what you think your measurables are. What is your work plan that would advance these priority areas? And then the coordinator is going to help them work through that, track themselves, hold them accountable to the extent that we can. And then the Safe and Well Oxford coordinator is also going to work with the situation and femicide prevention tables, who I think you're all to varying degrees familiar with, but are sort of essential services in our communities. And then you can see down in the lower right, the Heart Hub and Wellness Center, not technically part of our community safety wellbeing plan, but obviously the work that it does, adjacent to, as this graph shows, sort of overlapping needs and services. And so that's why it's shown there. There will, while there isn't formally a role for those two to connect, you are all familiar enough with the issues that I'm talking about here to know that there will inevitably be opportunities for constructive collaboration and things like that there. So then you can see on the side the shared commitments and the success enablers. And, the idea here is that if we can, with the coordinator position, have an advisory committee as opposed to a steering committee, action coalitions that establish their own measurables and work plans that would advance towards the priority areas, the coordinator to coordinate and help them get that work done, that they would collectively, identify gaps in service areas or overlaps and redundancies, possibly new areas where they could collaborate and get things done. But the idea would be that all of that work that they would identify themselves would advance towards those priority areas, which we've collectively identified through the consultation process that I outlined earlier on.
Okay. We didn't have anything else to share, but we are available for questions if anybody has any.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Through the chair. Thank you for your presentation, very detailed. So this is just for the public's benefit, because I think it's really important that the public understands it all, because it's all about them. So, this is on the county website if they wanted to access it, correct?
Not this version.
No,
yet,
no, not
but
this
yep.
version, but anytime they can,
Yep.
it's right there, because I think it needs to be really simple for them to understand and to get engaged. So I know our acting CAO has been very involved with it. So now you said all the other area will have somebody. So is it possible that on the other six will also have something they can put on their website? I think it would be strongly suggested that all the area municipalities and townships would also have something on their website to involve everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah, through the mayor. I mean, just thinking
Yeah,
on my feet
yeah.
here, my first reaction would be even simply a link to our website could be a really simple thing, because we do have a website. I'm pretty sure it's safeandwelloxford.ca. So thank you. So I think that would be a really quick and easy solution. We could certainly explore some other ways to make it, maybe even including our logo and stuff. It would be an option.
Well, yeah, because I just think it's really important that every community gets involved in it. And watching this, they may be a little bit overwhelmed.
It's a lot.
So, I mean, we all know about it, but just, I think it's very important for the public. And then the last thing, just for the public's benefit, how many organizations do you, just a rough, just so the public knows, because I know, like, we have staff people involved, but the public with all the agencies that you also work with.
We have, through the mayor, we have a minimum, I'm going to say, of at least 90 to 100 different service providers that we are communicating with. And not everybody necessarily sits at an action coalition, for example, but as far as being connected to the plan sort of in some way, I would say at least 90.
So I think that's a part that's really important, and to stress, so the public knows there's all these resources out there. If they come to this one site, then it could be helpful.
Thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair, thank you so much for being here this evening. It's nice to see you both again. I've been at both summits now. I've attended both of them, and I think the last one, and I'm sure that those that were in attendance would also agree, there was a lot of conversations that was happening, and it was really hard to kind of gather it all. And I think you've done a really good job of, you know, finding those pieces. You know, we talked about the rural and urban aspect and how difficult it is for those that work in social services and et cetera, trying to cater to both of those, you know, living municipalities. So it's going to be a lot of work, and I think anybody that's been at those summits and anybody that works in these resources and service providers know that it's a lot of work. But I think you've done a really great job of pulling this all together and having a coordinator position. Like you said, it is a bit of a drop in a bucket, but it's the first step in the right direction, I think. So great work on all of this. And I would really highly encourage folks. There is a full report in our agenda as well. So this is all here for people to go and see. But there's a lot of really great information in here that I think is important for folks to read.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Shanberg.
This will end up with a very difficult question to answer for the delegation, but I noticed there's quite a bit of overlap in the 6 priority areas, which is very important, kind of like a Venn diagram. But when it's all said and done, the one about housing for all, that's going to be a difficult one to attain or accomplish, is it not?
I mean, short answer is yes, obviously. I mean, it is a commitment that Oxford County Council has made, I can't remember exactly how long ago now, but 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I think-ish. Housing for all, 100% housed. And I know, you know, there a lot of people have tried to chip at it and say, well, you're never getting anybody housed. And my response to that is always, well, how many people are you willing to have unhoused? Right? I mean, obviously the goal has to be that everybody has a house, right? Whether you can ever get to 100%, or do you get to 99? Do you get to 99.9, 99.99, whatever? But the goal has to be housing for all. So yeah, it's challenging. And frankly, since we made the commitment, however many years ago it was, things have only gotten worse. Anybody on any area council, but especially those of us who sit on county council know the challenges. And I mean, I I'd be hard pressed to think of an agenda that we have at county council that does not have some item on it that in some way doesn't touch on housing. Whether explicitly through, actually allocation of funds or resources, or obviously planning applications, or other areas of service manager service deliveries. So it's going to be extremely complex to do. You know that yourself for some of the planning applications heard here tonight about, you're considering an application, and do you ask for childcare to be in that or not? Are you going to get RFP response to that? Are you going to have to give up units to get it, even though it's a service that you want? It's going to be an immense challenge. I think I've said to many residents before, and I think it's still true, unfortunately, today, the housing and homelessness situation is probably still going to get worse again. AMO released its report last week or earlier this week, I think, a year on from the initial one they did, and it makes it clear that the housing and homelessness situation in Ontario is worse now than it was a year ago, despite all the efforts that we've made. So frankly, I think whether it's Woodstock City Council, Oxford County Council, the provincial, the federal government, even if we were all to collectively come up with the solution on housing policy and we all fully funded it and we all implemented it right away, it frankly takes time to get shovels in the ground, to build things, to get people out of their situations. And all that speaks nothing to the mental health and addictions issues that have frankly put a lot of people into their precariously housed situation in the first place. So, short answer is, yeah, it's going to be hard. And that's my longer answer.
I noticed just in the last couple of weeks or so, the 785 Southwood Way project is kind of open, and that's related to the county, but not related to the county because it says Woodstock, not-for-profit housing, but anything that's helping people get a roof over their head is very good. And that's what I mentioned, is the fact that all six are somewhat connected. And I emailed Rebecca Smith from Human Services Department, the County of Oxford, earlier this week, and I know the work is being done. I'm just sort of saying the frustration would be is to accomplish that feat, and that's gonna be a tough task at hand for sure. Something worth attaining, though.
Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. And just talking about affordable housing, and I am on the Woodstock Nonprofit Housing Board, and affordable housing anymore doesn't seem affordable to a lot of people. And I think as we keep going on, it just gets worse. And the units that we have on Nellis Street, when you take the market value, and then it's 80% of market value for the affordable, and still it's very difficult for a lot of people. So when the province talks about affordable housing, it's not affordable to a lot of people, and I agree that it's going to, I think, get worse before it ever gets better. And I agree with you there. So, thank you.
I think when I talk to people about that issue, I always make a distinction between capital A affordable housing, as defined by the province under legislation as 80% of the market rate, and small A affordable, or some people call it attainable or accessible housing. I think when you think about affordable housing as 80% of market value in 2026, that's probably just what market rate was in sort of 2019, 2018. So if the last time you looked for an apartment was 2017. And now you're looking again, and you say, well, now to pay a comparable rent, I have to qualify for an affordable unit now. So it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. And that's why a lot of the language that we're using in county housing policy, but also now at AMO and in advocacy and Roma advocacy around housing with the province, is of a deeply affordable housing, right? Because the 80% affordable definition it's a help to some people for sure, and we have to continue to think of it as a continuum of people all the way from encampment through transitional and supportive housing through to affordable and market rate and home ownership. But so all the components matter. If you only focus on one, you're just moving the bottleneck to somewhere else. You have to be able to move people through. But you're right. 80% of market rate is not the one all solution to moving somebody from a tarp in January in Woodstock to a home and independent living.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Martin.
Quick question, probably for you, Sarah. You said that you've learned a lot in the last year. About, and you were very knowledgeable at the beginning of the year, in my opinion, having, sitting on the steering committee. How unusual is it, the approach that Oxford County is taking, that we're working together, all 8 municipalities? When you think, I know that you have contacts around, the province that are doing very similar work. How are, like, is this unique, or are we, is the province looking at this as maybe this is a way that some two-tier municipalities might be efficiently tackling a challenge that they've handed us to deal with?
Through the mayor, to Councillor Martin. I, it does exist. I do sit on like a subject matter group for coordinators of community safety well-being plans. Um, and through that, I've made some relationships and partnerships with other people obviously doing this similar work. And I can think of a couple off the top of my head that are parts of plans that are a single plan on behalf of multiple municipalities. I think that just knowing the number, there are, last I heard, it's possible this has changed, 97 existing community safety wellbeing plans in the province. So I think it's actually like fairly common, considering there's what, 400 and something municipalities. So I do think that it is fairly common. We are not alone, but I think that it is I mentioned it's a very efficient way of doing it, and I thinking about all of the time that people spend sitting at meetings and attending meetings and trying to do some of this work, if we can save them by not having to go to 8 meetings on the same topic, I think like it's so much more efficient, in my opinion.
If I can follow up, I guess my follow-up is more of a comment. I just try to imagine that if all 8 municipalities were trying to doing this themselves, it would not be efficient, it would not be cost effective. And that, and I'm hopeful, as we're one of 8 presentations that you're going to do on this, that becomes obvious to all of our member municipalities, that working together on this really, really heightens the value of the work of the coalitions and the advisory committee.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, seeing none, I'd just like to thank not only yourselves, but all the committee members, or sorry, the advisory now members, as well as our community partners here in the community. So I know this is quite a challenge, and though unfortunately I missed this year's summit, and again, I apologize for that, as I was out of town, but the information that our deputy CAO and clerk has shared is eye-opening, to say the least. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, no resolution is required, as this does refer to Department Report Item 14G.1, but if council does not mind, I'm going to suggest pulling them forward. Any objections to that? Seeing none, then we will look for a mover. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve the updated Safe and Well Oxford Plan as attached to this report, and further that City Council continues to endorse Oxford County as the lead for implementation of the Safe and Well Oxford Plan.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Tate. Discussion? See, Councillor Martin?
Yeah, so I was waiting for the mover, if you wish to have spoken. I said it in my earlier comments, but this is way more efficient when we can work together. And it is this resolution that we have in front of us right at this moment that enacts the activity for Safe and Well to be undertaken by Oxford County. We approved a new full-time equivalent position, coordinator position, at County Council to address this issue moving forward. I am fully believe that having that coordinator position will keep the work of all of the coalitions and all of those 90 to 100 agencies that are out there doing work on the radar every single day, rather than, those monthly meetings that we swing into and, do our good work. But I just know that this will keep that activity relevant. You might recall at the very beginning of the term, we updated our strategic plan. And as a part of that strategic plan, we added a priority item saying that we would partner to support the development of a campus of services around addiction, mental health, and transitional housing. And that was new in the strategic plan. And I remember it because as we did that whole virtual session, I was the person that typed that out. And at the time, I remember thinking that that would be a bricks and mortar building of a campus of services. And yet the work being done by the Safe and Well Advisory Committee and all of the coalitions is a virtual campus of services. And much of this work actually checks off that box within our strategic plan and delivers many of those services right here in the city of Woodstock, where we're feeling the greatest need.
Thank you. Anyone else? With that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That's unanimous. Again, I'd like to thank the advisory committee and all the members that are putting that together, and I look forward to seeing the results. Have a good night. Now we'll go back to item 12. There is no mayor's report, no councilor reports, but we do have department reports this evening. So 14A from Administrative Services, point 1, e-time card system replacement. Looking for a motion, Councillor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize staff to enter into an agreement with ADP for payroll and human resource services, subject to the terms and conditions satisfactory to the Chief Administration Officer, Chief Financial Officer, and the City Clerk. And further, that Woodstock City Council authorize the inclusion of the one-time and annual costs in the 2026 operating budget to secure ADP services.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder, Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Next up from engineering, 14B1, Canada Public Transit Fund, baseline funding. Looking for a motion? Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Housing Infrastructure and Communities Canada for the provision of baseline public transit funding and any other related documents as required, and further that the necessary bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration under the bylaw section of the agenda.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Nothing from Cultural Services, Parks and Rec, and Economic Development, but we do have from clerks, which brings us to 14F.1, the acting mayor appointments. Looking for, that Woodstock City Council established a term of office for the acting mayor to be January 16th, 2026 through to November 14th, 2026. Looking for a motion for that. Sorry, Councillor Tate, looking for a seconder. Since I read that out already. Councillor Lauder. And I will turn it over to the clerk. Oh, we need to vote. All those in favor on the term? That is carried. Don't have a choice on that one. That's the end of term for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we'll now proceed with the election of the acting mayor. Each member of council is entitled to one vote, and CAO David Creary will draw a name from the ballot box in the event of a tie. So I will now accept nominations in writing, duly moved and seconded for the position of acting mayor. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none. Councillor Schattenberg has been nominated. Councillor Schattenberg, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
So since we only have one nomination, the motion would be that Councillor Schattenberg be appointed as acting mayor for the term of January 16th, 2026 through to November 14th, 2026. All those in favor? That motion carries.
Sorry. Before I move on, I'm not going anywhere. I got a whole bunch of messages. I don't know if people were just a little bit bored at home today with the snow, but the acting mayor is just gonna be when I'm not available and not here, but not to worry, this is normal. Of course, next year, or sorry, the end of this year, wow, here we are, another election year. There'll be an opportunity for the public to vote on a deputy mayor position that'll stay in that position for the next 4 years. Councillor Tate?
Through the chair, I just wanted to thank the outgoing acting mayor, Councillor Wismer Van Meer. She did a fantastic job because it turned out you had to take the chair a number of times. Normally, it's not that often. So thank you for the work you did to fill in for the mayor, especially when it's new. So you did a fantastic job. And it was very efficient. Our meetings were quicker when you were doing it.
Ouch, that one hurt. Yes, I too would also I was gonna say that. I thought I missed something along there. Thank you very much, Councillor Wismer Van Meer. You did have to step in a couple of times in my absence as travels permitted, so thank you very much for doing that. Okay, Councillor Leathermore.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, great job, Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Everyone can count on you and you did such a great job, but also your interviews were 10 out of 10. So I know myself and the rest of the community really enjoyed listening to you on Heart FM. So great job.
I think you've done that before, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and with that, we'll move along. 14F.2, citizen appointment to library board and community grants advisory committees. Looking for a motion? Councillor Martin?
I'll arm wrestle for it. The Woodstock City Council appoint Jordan Kent to the Woodstock Public Library Board and Fraser Campbell to the Community Grants Advisory Committee for a term from January 15th, 2026 to November 14th, 2026.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion or questions? Councillor Martin?
Just a quick comment that, again, there was a long list of very capable people who applied for these two positions. I thank both Jordan and Fraser for stepping forward and putting their names in. I know that these are two people that are very involved in our community, care deeply about what happens, and are looking forward to advancing the business of the city of Woodstock in their new roles.
Thank you. Councillor Tate?
Through the chair, I was just going to make the same comment, and thank all those people that did apply. It's very, very difficult. And the people that applied, their resumes were outstanding. So thank you to everybody that applied, and looking forward to the other two on the boards.
Yes, I agree. Now, on 3 terms of council, one of the toughest decisions we've always had to make is those committees, because there is so many qualified and committed people here in the city, and thank them so much for applying and to keep applying as well. Anyone else before I call the vote? All those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. And I thank them both for their commitment, and all the other committee members already on them. From the CAO's office, communities, sorry, we've done that one already. Nothing from human resources, but we do have fire services tonight. Woodstock Fire Protection Grant 2025 to 2026. And I have seen our chief has been sitting here very patiently, so everybody is aware he is in the house if there's any questions. Looking for a motion. Sorry, Councillor Schanberg?
Make a motion that Woodstock City Council authorizes the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary transfer payment agreement for the Woodstock Fire Protection Grant 25-26.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Councillor Schanberg?
Yeah, again, with Chief Slager in the room, I certainly would want to ask him to explain how this grant money works and how many years is it in effect for, and specifically what the fire department's going to be able to use it for.
Your worship, through to Councillor Schadenberg, thank you for the question. So this is the second year of a 3-year planned grant process that the province of Ontario initiated. We were in receipt, pardon me, for the first year. This is the second term that we've been successful in receiving some funds. We were very fortunate. Well, the fire departments across the province were fortunate that for the second year, the grant amount was actually doubled. When it started, it was set to be a 3-year term with $10 million per year to be dispersed amongst the fire services for specific initiatives. For the second year, again, it was doubled to 20 million, which was a great opportunity for the fire services to take part in. The initiatives that we were focused on were cancer prevention initiatives, either through minor infrastructure, equipment, items like that. That was part of the first year. The second year included those, but also added anything with lithium ion batteries as the concerns there go through. So with the project that we had put forward in the first year, we received partial funding of about $16,000. It allowed us to move on some of the initiatives we had put forward, which was additional bunker gear for our firefighters. The second part of that program was that we weren't able to get funding for was a bunker gear storage facility outside of the fire hall for our second fire hall at Vansittart Ave. So we included that project as part of this year's submission, as well as additional funds with capital budget, which council approved in December of last year. This allows us to move forward with purchasing and installing a storage facility adjacent to the Van Ave Fire Hall, which will allow our firefighters to store their gear in a ventilated, air quality controlled room off the wheel floor. So it's not exposed to any exhaust fumes coming from our apparatus when we come or leave from the stations, or any off-gassing of products. When we come back from fire incidences, the hose, everything that we've used does need to go through cleaning. It off-gasses there, and sometimes the gear that's on the wheel floor can be absorbed into that. When we wear it, it's against their skin. This allows us to have it outside of the area and minimize the carcinogens that they're exposed to when they're not wearing the gear. So we're excited about this. We're very grateful for the province for both the program and for the success of this grant application.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Martin?
It's not really a question. Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
You mentioned that the amount of funding was increased from 10 million to 20 million. And I know that we've talked about this way in the distant past, that the Association of Fire Chiefs advocates very actively for safety and protection of firefighters across the province. We're about to head to the Roma conference on the weekend, and I've run into the delegation there, and they're incredibly passionate about ensuring that the collective firefighters across Ontario have access to funding like this to improve safety and cancer prevention for our workforce. So I want to thank you and your team and whoever was the person that submitted the application. This money doesn't just get doled out. You have to find it and you have to chase it. And it matters to our workforce, and it matters to our taxpayers that you're progressive and proactive in pursuing this. So my thanks to you.
Thank you.
That was a comment. Yeah, that's good. Anyone else? Comment or question? Seeing none. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Your Worship.
I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. And nothing from Public Works or IT this evening. So that does bring us to Special Committee and Advisory Task Force reports. 15.A is 259 to 261 Park Row or Hawkins Chapel for heritage designation. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I move that Woodstock City Council publish on its website its intention to designate 259 to 261 Park Row pursuant to Part for Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And further, that Woodstock City Council serve upon the owner of the buildings and premises of 259 to 261 Park Row, and upon the Heritage Trust notice of intention to designate the subject property in accordance with the notice requirements of the Ontario Heritage Act. And further, that Woodstock City Council intends to enact a bylaw to designate the subject property as a property of cultural heritage value or interest pursuant to Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder? Counselor Tate? Discussion? Counselor Wismer Van Meer?
If it would be okay with council, our committee chair, Peter Epler, is here this evening. I know I have a couple of questions that I wanted to publicly ask. This is the advisory committee I sit on as a councillor. So if council was okay with that, if Peter could come forward on behalf of the committee to speak.
Any objections? I certainly would welcome Committee Chair Epler forward. Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for being here tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much through the chair to Councillor Wismer. We're really excited about this opportunity. If I could just speak very quickly about it.
Sure.
It's been almost 40 years since City of Woodstock has done a designation. We are very fortunate that we have such a inventory of institutional buildings that have been designated and reutilized, and it's a very unique thing considering the size of the city of Woodstock. But it is time that we continue, particularly with the passing of Bill 23 by the province and the kind of pressing threat of our built heritage, that we want to start moving forward. And it's been actually quite a long process, this particular building. We started this process internally, and we've completed this work internally completely over the last 2 years. So we originally prepared these documents in January of 2025. And at that point in time, reached out to the property owner ourselves in order to facilitate discussions. And the property owner at the time was positive and in favor of this. And we have continued to try to engage with the property owner, but haven't been successful. But being that it's been over a year or near a year that we've been trying to engage with the property owner to see if there were any further questions or concerns about the designation. There's unfortunately a lot of misinformation associated with the restrictions with designating a building under the Ontario Heritage Act, which I think scares a lot of people. But we haven't been able to connect with the property owner, and being that Black Heritage Month is next month, we really wanted to get this rolling so that we could move forward with the designation in recognition of Black Heritage Month. Being that this property is it's a cornerstone of the Black community that was in City of Woodstock. The property was purchased by two freed slaves, or not freed slaves, but escaped slaves from the United States. One of which worked as the doorman at the Oxford Hotel or O'Neill House, which is thankfully seeing some excellent work being done there. And another member, a stonemason. And so this property was purchased by that Black community, but particularly these two members, and really a grassroots operation. And so it is just such a distinct and important component of City of Woodstock, because I don't think that there's a really good understanding of how present the Black community was, particularly during that time in City of Woodstock. It's not really something that there's a lot of light shone on, but this is a really great opportunity where we have this grassroots structure still present, as well as the manse on this property. And it's one of the few properties, I think, in City of Woodstock where there's actually two civic addresses on a single property parcel. So we have these two structures that are still in existence. They're already in use as residential units. But they're there, they're still in their context, they still are within the context of the ward, which was really the black hub for that community at that time in the late 1800s, and a really big part of um, the central community of the British Methodist Episcopal Church, which what it was initially established as the African Episcopal Methodist Church, and then which then changed into the British Methodist Episcopal Church somewhere around the war with the between the Brits and the Americans for some reason. So it's an incredible piece of history. It's something we have really not there's not enough of a spotlight on the Black history in City of Woodstock and in Oxford County. So it's an incredible opportunity for us to start that process, make that recognition with if you've read the staff report that was included with the special committee report that was with the agenda. I mean, it's just it's all in everything, and it's a really great opportunity for us to not only continue to roll and revitalize the designation of important built heritage buildings in City of Woodstock, but also recognizing a very distinct community that has been and continues to be present within our municipal boundaries. So thank you for the moment. If I'll take any questions or comments.
Thank you. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to Mr. Epler, I know I've been in all those meetings. We've been talking about this property for 2 years at least of what we've been hoping to do. But I think that you mentioned it's the misconception of what heritage designation means. So can you just explain for not only for us here in council, but for the public as well, what that means for the property owners, and even any of the neighboring properties?
Absolutely. Through the mayor to the councillor. Yes, so there's a misconception that you have a designated property and that's it. You can't do anything at all, but it really relies on why that property is being designated. And a lot of it is about the presence of those structures still being there, the fact that they're still in the context of where they were originally, and then it's the historical and attributive value of these buildings and what they mean to the Black community in early City of Woodstock. And that's what the protection is about protecting those structures from being demolished or moved. That is the gross extent. We're not making architectural attributions. We're not saying that you need to redo it or put it back to the way it was. It is actively used as both properties are actively used as a residence, and that's absolutely fine. We just want those structures to exist, and there are really no limitations beyond demolition.
Thank you. Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for your presentation, and to the committee as well. I found this report incredibly interesting. Within the report, it notes that Woodstock has over 1,500 properties cataloged. Would you say that it is the changes to what was Bill 23 and then amended by Bill 185 that kind of propelled the committee to this specific heritage designation? I mean, I understand that that's a long list, and this obviously took a lot of time for one. So I was just trying to understand maybe next steps to designate others as well.
Through the mayor to councillor. Yeah, so when Bill 23 came out, it was a bit of a shake for everybody. And so we sat down. We have some excellent and long-standing members in this committee. I don't know how many years, but some of those members have been around longer than most of us. And so we just said, okay, we have a lot of properties that have been identified within our inventory through the excellent work of Eleanor Garthouse for her passion. And so we sat down and said, okay, we have limited resources, we have limited time. If you could only do one property, what would the property be? And that's how how we landed on this in discussion. But if you ask Eleanor, I mean, she would have us doing everything left, right, and center. However, you know, this is our first time doing it in a long time. There have been a lot of changes to the Heritage Act, or at least the implementation of the Heritage Act. There's the Heritage Toolkit out there, and there's a revised Heritage Toolkit that came out last year from the province. So we just kind of wanted to get our feet wet in our first designation, and then, you know, revisit this list and the properties there, because, you know, City of Woodstock has a lot to offer, and we're ready to roll.
Just to follow up there, Mr. Mayor, well, thank you very much and congratulations. I think that this is very exciting and much deserved. And my last question was just as it rolls into Black Heritage History Month next month, does the committee have plans to partner with, say, What's on Woodstock magazine or Tourism Oxford or different social media channels to kind of elevate this good news historical story?
Through the mayor to the councillor, we want to, it'll maybe be a little late, but we wanted to see how people were feeling. We wanted to see what the opportunities were before, you know, if we did not get the momentum that we were hoping for. Yeah, you know, we're all volunteers and looking to we're doing the best that we can, because there's a lot of things to do. So we're certainly looking to, as we progress with this, because there's the 30-day notification, or 30-day period for notice of intent to designate. And then we're hoping to provide some additional publicity around this, and then, you know, also seeking more feedback from the residents of City of Woodstock of buildings that are important to them, because our meetings over the last 8 years that I've been present have been very quiet. So, you know, we're working ourselves, but we would absolutely love to hear from the residents of Woodstock as to what they'd like to see happen, and what we can do. And we can show that this process is not painful, and that, you know, it is all in also due consideration to the current property owners, that there's no hardship intended on them, and that this, you know, we can all just kind of get along and still protect the heritage of Woodstock before, you know, it starts to disappear.
Councillor Schanberg?
Yeah, just a comment. Thanks for your work. And I just know that with the city of Woodstock celebrating 125 years as a city this year, boy, this is really significant to be able to honor this particular double building, if you want to call that, on Park Row. I grew up in the city of Woodstock. It's sort of in that same neighborhood, and to be able to see the recognition come to these buildings on Park Row is great, because obviously these churches predate 1901 when the city of Woodstock officially became a city. So this is terrific. Thanks.
Anyone else? I remember first hearing about this property back in 2014 to 2018 term. Eleanor had brought it up, many properties, not just this one at the time, but finding its history out at that point in time, and the amount of families that came that are still around today is actually incredible. And of course, we're talking back from 1886. So as Councillor Schadenberg mentioned before, City of Woodstock incorporated anyways as a city, but at that point, we've had a long history already. So thanks to the committee and all the work you've been doing for this. And I do hope the landowner acknowledges this quickly. And we can kind of finalize all this as well. With that, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Thank you very much, Peter. Next up, we do have a notice of motion. Councillor Martin.
Thank you very much. Whereas ongoing illegal dumping within the city of Woodstock has become a growing concern for residents and the municipality, and whereas community complaints and the cost implications associated with cleanup and enforcement continues to increase, therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to prepare a report for council that examines the issue of illegal dumping within the city of Woodstock, clarifies the city's jurisdiction and authority to address illegal dumping, including any legislative limitations, and provides a set of possible recommendations and strategies to proactively address this issue, including but not limited to enforcement options, public education initiatives, and partnerships with relevant agencies, as well as identifying any potential resource implications associated with implementing these recommendations.
All right. We will be voting or debating on this on our next meeting on February 5th, for those watching at home. No new business. That brings us to draft bylaws. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Tate, that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9797-26, a bylaw to authorize execution of the Canada Public Transit Fund baseline funding agreement between Housing, Infrastructure and Communities Canada and the Corporation of the City of Woodstock. 9798-26, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended ZN 820-24-23 1634 Devonshire Avenue and 715133 Oxford Road 4.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns with those? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Lauder.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Martin that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9797-26 and 9798-26.
And last chance. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor? Those are carried, none opposed. And that brings us to questions and addresses tonight. And tonight we're going to start with Councillor Tate.
So this month, we've lost two giants in our community. First, Harry Valutin, just passed away. He was the founder of Harvin Engineering. His family still runs it, and the great family. I knew them from the golf course, really nice people. And the other one was Jim Leslie. He started out as sweeping the floor at Timberland and ended up being a managing partner. He was a fantastic man, hardworking. I stopped by his son has a business in town too, manufacturing, and there was somebody out doing the yard work, and I thought it was actually his son, and it was him. He was like 80 years old doing the yard work. But the reason I mention him is he has been such a friend to our community, whether it's the hospital, all kinds of other agencies that we don't even know about because he didn't like to be recognized, but especially to the city. And I just like to remind people, and I learned this from a long time ago, you be kind to everybody because you don't know who knows who. So his granddaughter worked in the parks and she was treated so well, and he gave back to our parks department more than we could ever imagine somebody. So they will be lost. Their families are still, some of their family is still around and carrying on their work ethic, but it's a big loss to Woodstock. And a couple other comments. I get people sending me pictures all the time of the garbage downtown, and I either call the CAO. And it was funny, right? So the journalist for the Echo sent us all an email, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, with all the pictures, and he wants comments from all of us. So he's going to be doing a story. But that same day I drove downtown before I got the email, and there was a big mess in a vestibule of a deserted building. Called the CAO private, called the police. So I got a hold of Jamie Taylor, the inspector with the Woodstock Police Department. He said, no problem, leave it with me, I'll work on it. Well, by the time, and then I noticed later they were gone, but then they came back a couple days later. So I got a message on Monday, FYI, it was looked after, all cleaned up, done. So big thank you. I know how busy everybody is and I know the police are like numerous calls. So we're trying. So when you do see something, contact us. And if it's private, we have to send the police if possible. It's not always possible, but, and then a big thank you to our Director of Public Works and City Engineering, as everybody has noticed that we no longer are in charge of the recycling, the new program. But somebody pointed out a couple of comments to me on social media. They were worried about people losing jobs. That was never going to happen, but our staff worked nonstop with the county to come with a really good resolution. It was in the report, no staff jobs were going to be lost, but appreciate all the work and the time that went into it. I know it's very confusing for people, but and also for the public's benefit. Council is not involved in any kind of operations, whether it's county or city. The staff did all this and a lot of time and effort put into it. So thank you very much. And I think that was it. And the thank you again to our Board of Works for all the snow removal. Over the holidays, there was a number of water main breaks, so the water guys were out for hours. Then the snow removal, I know we sometimes get complaints, but these people have to give up all this time for it. We only have so many people and so many machines, so please be patient and thank you again.
Thank you. Counselor Shanberg.
Tim Horton should offer about a 20% discount on every time Deb Tate has to go out and buy coffee for the Works Department that's out working at nighttime on a water main break or something. A reminder that coming up on March 28th, sounds like a long time from now, but it's the Rec and Leisure Fair. It's an annual event for the city of Woodstock. Saturday this year is going to be held at the Oxford Auditorium. And one of the reasons why the Rec Advisory Committee picked Saturday this time is to kind of go hand in hand with the Saturday morning market. So the Rec and Leisure Fair actually starts at 11 a.m. to overlap a bit with the market. And the reason I'm mentioning it now again is for any organizations, whether you're involved in a hobby or whether you're involved in dancing or singing or certainly a sports group, by all means, to sign up for the Rec and Leisure Fair. Lots of information in the What's on Woodstock magazine. And just a while ago, I mentioned the fact that Woodstock is celebrating its 125 birthday. Again, page 8 and page 9 of the current What's on Woodstock magazine. There's a lot of great information and even some soundbite kind of information about what you could do. For example, hosting a neighborhood block party. But the one thing that I really enjoyed reading about was the Woodstock Coin Club. It wants to design a commemorative coin for the city of Woodstock. And there'll be 2 divisions, one for over the age of 18 and then one for a youth category as well. And the information is there as far as designing the coin goes, is also on page 9 of the current What's on Woodstock magazine for the month of January. So be sure to check that out.
Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Just a quick plug for the arts here in Woodstock. So Theatre Woodstock has their younger stages group are going to be doing 2 productions. They have Mixed Up Fairy Tale and Into the Woods Junior. So it runs the weekend of the 23rd. So it's 23rd, 24th, and 25th that they'll have different show times for that. And just a quick FYI disclaimer, if you really want to see Jesus Christ Superstar, which is coming in February, which I think everybody does, get your tickets because it's over 80% sold out already for all of the showings. That's this is going to be a huge production. If you talk to some of those that are involved on stage and behind the scenes, they have over 60 people. I think it's 60 or to 70, maybe more, that are in this production because they have dance, they have singers. They, you know, if you're a singer and you don't want to dance, then that's your role in this. If you're a dancer and don't want to sing, that's your role. So they've got a ton of people. It is a ton of hours and so much work they're putting into this. So if you want tickets, get them because they're selling out. And support the young folks that are doing the stages productions because those kids put so much effort into these productions and they do so well. I mean, these little gaffers that are in these ones are so adorable to watch on the stage, but they're so talented. So please go and watch these young kids on the stage as well, because they deserve our recognition and attention.
Good to know. Thank you. Counselor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I have a couple of things on my list. From Southwestern Public Health, just wanted to raise a reminder that there has been an enormous spike in flu cases following the holiday, and it is not too late to get a flu shot if you haven't had one already. Visit Southwestern Public Health or swpublichealth.ca to find out more about where you can connect up with a vaccination. I also want to thank Public Works. I would say the last couple of weeks has been daunting. Not only have there been sweeping changes in the curbside collection program, and between the city and the county, I know that there's been enormous effort to try and reach people with this news and information, and yet people still found themselves unaware of changes. So curbside collection, lots of changes there, but um, it- there were reasons why the decisions were made. I know a 6-day cycle sounds like an enormous change for people, but we're into our second week of it and I'm already, feeling like I'm fully aware of what my next date is and planning my garbage usage around it. But I also want to mention that people might not realize that in the month of December, so far this winter, Woodstock has received well over 100 centimeters of snow. I was talking to the director before our meeting, we're probably close to about 120 centimeters of snow. We have had 2 thaws, but last night's 20 something centimeters certainly put us well over that 100 centimeter mark. This puts an enormous load on staff, but also the equipment, and they have been pushing hard to clear roads and keep it safe. But our responsibility as citizens is to also brush off our car, make sure that you can see all the way around your vehicle when you head out there. Visibility matters, and I know that we've said it many times, but adjust your speed, adjust your driving for the conditions. I mentioned that we're heading to the Roma conference. Mayor Accioni, Councillor Leatherborough, Councillor Wismer Van Meer, and myself will be heading. This is a fantastic opportunity. It happens once a year, once for Roma, once for AMO. It's the opportunity for us to learn from other municipalities, but it's really our opportunity to sit with the various ministries in the provincial government, of whom we are creatures, creatures of the province, to advocate for the needs and necessities here in the city of Woodstock. And I know there's a number of appointments over the next couple of days to do that. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to work with each of you and represent Woodstock there. Finally, I just wanted to mention that a couple of weeks ago, I started a blog. It's something I've been meaning to do for so long, probably the last 2 years. And I finally, over the Christmas holidays, pushed myself to get creative and do some writing. I chose the platform Substack because it's super easy to use for me as a creator. It's free for me to use. It's easy to use. It's versatile, but it's also free for anyone to access it, whether they want to just read a blog or share a blog or look at posts from other people. So I invite people to connect there. My intention is to talk about issues around the city, potentially, our interaction with the provincial government. I made a list of 40 different topics, and already people are adding ideas of what we can talk about there. So it's free to use, and I encourage people to connect if you're looking for up-to-date information and ideas. And that's all I have to say for tonight.
Thank you. Counselor Leatherborough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we all know, it's cold out there. I did connect with Scott McKegg today, and so far, they have raised $38,000 already. And we have more walkers signed up than anywhere else in Canada, so that's out of 225 places. So all of the information that you need, if you haven't signed up or joined a team, you can just go to Coldest Night of the Year Woodstock website. The map is there, the route is there, times are there. So that's very exciting, seeing as it's only January 15th. And as we're talking about snow and giving thanks for the staff that's out there removing the snow, I do often think about those that are vulnerable in our community during this time. So equally excited about Roma. We have some Roma prep first thing tomorrow morning, coming in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I'm looking forward to connecting with everyone and hopefully advocating hard for our community.
Thank you. And Counselor Lauder.
Thank you. On Saturday, January 24th, Southgate welcomes everyone to their open house to show off what the new expanded facility looks like. and hear about the changes to programming and new opportunities moving forward. And on Monday, February the 2nd, the Groundhog Day, come join Southgate for Chili Charlie's breakfast and learn the prognosis. A long winter ahead or spring is around the corner. Hopefully, he does not see a shadow, which is supposed to indicate spring is just around the corner. For me, it can't come quick enough. Thanks to the outside workers who have had an overabundance of snow clearing to contend with prior to getting all the leaves dealt with. Also, a big thanks to all the water department and dealing with the broken water mains. This winter has not been kind to many, unless of course you're a skier. And I just wanted to thank Jeff. I called Jeff and talking about a lady that came to me at Southgate, and she was with a cane, and she didn't have a portion of her street cleared the snow. And when I called him, and within 24 hours, she told me it was cleared. So she's my best friend now. I don't know what her name was, but anyhow, thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I will certainly echo many of you talking about our public works, water staff. It has been a challenge for sure. And I thank them very much for being outside when the rest of us want to be inside and staying off the roads. On top of course, all the garbage and recycling organics changes that have going on. So the chaos that is there is real, and we thank all the staff for going through that. And I just want to say, if you see snow, drive slow. It's always amazed at how many people are trying to pass plows as they're plowing our streets down Dundas Street, and just slow down, everyone, please, for everyone's sake. Roma was mentioned. Yes, looking forward to that. Going to continue to advocate on behalf of all the city of Woodstock and some Oxford County delegations as well. I hope everybody had a fantastic holiday season. Wishing everyone a fantastic 2026. And with that, looking forward to the Southgate Center grand opening. It's been a long time talking about, and I'll also see you at Groundhog Day. So thanks, everybody. Have a good night. With that, looking for an adjournment. Councillor Wismer Van Meer, second by Councillor Martin. All those in favor, we are adjourned. Good night, all. Drive safe.